We are Mary and Jack Kaler, and we've been together for 10 years now, married for 6. And as we sit here, it's the beginning of June, and this past November, we filed for divorce.
My background, I come from a broken family. Wasn't really active in church. My family was before me. I had very little church history up until about 7 years ago. We got involved with church, Mary and I, and very awesome job. Felt God really blessed me with it. Involved a lot of traveling, and during that traveling, I think it kind of made it more difficult for me to get to church. I ended up becoming lazier and basically broke away from the church, and that obviously didn't help. And through that, at the time didn't realize it, but started becoming very selfish and not doing things like putting my wife above me, and wasn't praying anymore. Over the course of that, became a very bad husband.
One of those trips that Jack had gone on, there was 2 weeks back to back that he had to be gone, and we argued a lot when he was home. I kind of dreaded him coming home because I would expect a reunion that wasn't going to happen. Him to have really missed me and to want to spend time with me, and he pretty much just needed to decompress, as he put it, which pretty much meant to be away from me because he knew that I was expecting him to do things that he wasn't comfortable doing, and to be a husband that he didn't kind of know how to be, I think. People act like when you get married that the struggle's over, that you found the person and that you're just going to ride off into the sunset. And unfortunately, when you get married, a lot of the struggles begin. But just like most things in life, if they're difficult, they're worth it. And if your parents don't explain that to you, if your friends that are married don't explain that to you, you don't get it. It's a hard concept to grasp unless you've been through it. And Jack did not have a whole lot of that. But God can show you. If nobody else knows, God designed a marriage. He made it, and he can show you how it needs to go. But he came home from those trips and had been thinking a lot on his own, and sat me down on the couch and said, I think we need to get a divorce. And I pretty much fell to the floor. That was not the answer I was expecting. Maybe we needed counseling, maybe we needed to work on stuff, maybe we needed to separate even, but not divorce. And I pretty much begged him to let us try and pray about it. I told him God can fix anything, and he agreed. And we tried to work on it for about 6 weeks. We both met with Rob separately and got separate things out of it, and we were just in 2 completely different places, spiritually and mentally and emotionally. And the day before our 6-year anniversary, I moved out, and the next week I filed for divorce because I didn't know. I didn't know if it could be fixed, and I just wanted to get on to the next stage of my life to see what God had for me, because I felt like this had run its course. And I came here. I was in church a lot. I prayed a lot. I worshiped a lot and cried and tried to just keep myself as open as possible and just say, God, I don't know why this is happening, but there's a reason, because that's how you work. And I just have to trust that the reason's going to show itself eventually if I keep my heart open about it, and I keep my mind open about it, and I keep you at the center of my life, because now I don't have anything else to be the center.
Yeah, about a week after she had moved out, I think I was sitting there. I had a trip planned that afternoon. I was going to be flying out, and I was awake at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, no intention to go to church. TV was off, house was empty, and it was almost like God was knocking on the front door. It just hit me, the blank walls, no pictures, no sign of life other than me being there. And he literally brought me to my knees on my living room floor. He showed me everything I had done wrong in my marriage. He let me know that I was to pursue her, that she is the gift to me, and that, show me my failures, and that I'm going to get back on track. And from that moment, I recommitted my faith to him, and was bound and determined to get things back on track. I didn't realize she had filed for divorce at the time, and so I went on my trip that evening. I was in Texas, and all in the back of my mind was planning on, okay, we're gonna work this out, and I'll just get through this trip, and I'll get back, and we'll start talking again. And I think Wednesday, I was at lunch with the class I was training, and I got a phone call from my father, who'd been checking on the house for me, and he said he had seen the sheriff's department deliver a letter, and which told me that she had filed. And it was kind of heartbreaking that Wednesday when I heard that, and I just felt like, here comes a curveball. How could this be fixed? How's this going to work out, God? You made me change my mind. You got me into this. And I prayed. I began praying, and I felt more of a calmness, and prayed throughout the week, and just was patient, and just tried to listen and meditate on things I felt, and God speaking to me. And by the time I got back, I had talked to my family, and them looking at the fact that there was now an attorney involved. They strongly suggested I do the same. You need to protect yourself or whatever. But that's not what the feeling I was actually getting from God, and through prayer and things. It was no, you're going to pursue her, you're going to trust in me that things are going to work out. So I never did file. We had talked and discussed a time to meet up to discuss the separation of items, and when that was when we had that conversation, in the back of my mind, even though I was agreeing with her on a time to go talk about this, in my mind I knew that I was going to use that opportunity to tell her that I wanted to take her back, and I needed her back. And so we had our meeting, and that's exactly what I did. I told her that I was wrong, and that I had made mistakes, and God was telling me that we need to be together.
I guess the bottom line is, you can't fix your marriage. If you're having a hard time, you can't do it. Women, you can't argue your marriage better. And men, you can't give it some space and give it some time, and it'll self-correct. It's not going to happen. There has to be three of you involved. God can fix it. I don't care how far it's gone. I don't care who's been involved, lawyers, mistresses. It doesn't matter. God's in charge of it. And if you give it back to him, he'll do with it what he wants done. It's up to him. And I couldn't argue our marriage better. I couldn't force Jack to do anything, and I really, really tried for a long time, and it pushed him further and further away. And he wanted space, so that's what he gave me, and that's the last thing I wanted. We had no idea what each other needed, but God knew what we needed. And God isn't good because Jack and I are back together God isn't good because he brought me back my husband. There are women in this situation that don't get their husbands back. Their husbands don't humble themselves like Jack did and let God in when he's knocking on their door. God was good because he was with me when I was by myself. And he was with Jack when he was by himself. He was with us the entire time. And no matter what the outcome was going to be, God was still going to be good. And he's good right now. He's good in the middle of your trials. He's good in the middle of whatever you're going through. We got back together New Year's Day. I moved back in. And then later that month, we found out we were pregnant. And we were elated. And I thought to myself, that, this is what happens when you do what God wants you to do. And you're following his commandments, and you're putting other people before you, and you're putting God as your priority. He blesses you with gifts beyond your imagination. And we went for our first ultrasound, and we had lost a baby. And I didn't know why. That's the first question you ask yourself always, is why. And the first words out of Jack's mouth was, sometimes God puts you through trials to strengthen your faith, to get you where you need to be with him. Of course, I didn't want to hear it at the time. I just kind of wanted to be angry for a little while, but he was right. And I always thought, why when we're doing what we're finally supposed to be doing in our lives and with each other and with God, would this happen? Would he give this and take this away? But I had been in small group here with some wonderful women ever since the divorce proceedings had started. And I was thinking one day while I was sitting there in small group, and I said, we didn't get to be pregnant because we were doing what we were supposed to be doing. B didn't happen because A happened because B was coming. God knew we were going to miscarry. God knew that this was the plan for our life. And we needed to get right with him and get right with each other before that happened. Because the stages we were in before now, 2 years ago, if we got pregnant 2 years ago and that would have happened, we wouldn't be together. We weren't where we needed to be secure and to support each other and to be there for each other and to let God be the center of our marriage, no matter what. Just because you're on a mountain doesn't mean you're going to be on the mountain forever or for very long. A valley's right below it, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It gets you where God wants you to be. And everything that's happened over the last 10 years, we're better for it. We're better people. We're better husband and wife. We're better sons. We're better daughters. We're better friends.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Mary.
And this is our story.